Welcome to Positive Recovery MD. If you're listening, chances are you want to create happiness around you and thrive in your life. We're glad you're here and you've come to the right place. This podcast will inspire and motivate you to not merely survive your recovery journey, we'll give you the tools to build or strengthen your foundation to thrive and flourish in your life. Each week, we'll come together as a community to have authentic conversations around addiction, recovery, and what matters. Growth and progress, not perfection. All while developing positive habits for you to utilize in your life. To learn more, please visit positiverecoverymd.com to sign up to receive the daily positive interventions that we'll review, as well as gain access to exclusive Positive Recovery content available only to Positive Recovery MD listeners. All right, let's get started.
Hey, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another installment of Positive Recovery MD with your hosts, Jason Powers, Julie DeNova, and our amazing local friend, guest, Steve Murphy.
I have had the pleasure of working with Steve Murphy for quite a number of years. It's over 15. And so it's always fun to have someone that we know and is near and dear to our heart for sure on the show. So for our listeners, Steve Murphy is a chemical dependency counselor, a licensed chemical dependency counselor, which people refer to commonly as an LCDC. And he's been in the field for over 34 years. His office for Positive Recovery Centers, San Antonio, is located right off of Blanco Road. And he's been part of the Positive Recovery Centers family since we switched names, and we worked with him together with another agency that we were with. Not only does Steve work as a licensed chemical dependency counselor, he also helps folks who are interested in working in the field. He is the current director of Addiction Counselor Training Program or School in San Antonio. He's been doing that since 2016. And also opened or helped open the Houston School, which was in 2019. In San Antonio, Steve has private practice with Alamo City Treatment Services. He provides evaluations for anyone that needs a state or drug-related incident report or evaluation. He does some stuff with custody issues, the Board of Nursing, pharmacies, doctors, dentists, CPAs. Does some work with the FAA and also the Department of Defense. It's so fun when we have people that we know on, because we just like goofing off and having fun with one another. But for our listeners, we're going to have Steve introduce himself in a way that often we use with our clients here at Positive Recovery Centers. It's called a positive introduction, and it's really Steve kind of letting you know a little bit about who he is at his best, kind of giving you a little synopsis of an event or something that took place in his life that illustrates Steve at his best. Because I can tell you like where he went to school, what he does, who he helps, but really we just want you to get to know Steve a little bit before he goes into his story. So Steve, why don't you tell our listeners who you are at your best?
Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me on. And, I just want to say I'm glad to be a part of this family. I've been so blessed. One of the things about being a counselor and being in recovery is that, you meet a bunch of great people. I think one thing that kind of is sad is that I don't get to make friends with a lot of people that become clients, because we meet some amazing people. But one of the things I was thinking about is that one of the people that has been a mentor to me and, has been a good friend of mine also, was struggling with some problems one day. And I remember he's a pretty spiritual guy. And I like to be creative. I like to do things. And, one of the things that hit me was, that he was struggling with some problems in his life. And he talked about that, I remember he said his wife was having problems. And he said, do me a favor, don't pray for my wife. He said, pray for her pray as if it has already been done. And so I thought it was so important of the lesson he taught me and what I heard that I made this frame for him and put the scripture in there and also put it in Hebrew also for him because he has some really strong faith and it really, and gave it to him for Christmas. And, I think that one of the blessings I've gotten from being alive and being in recovery is that, I don't have to survive anymore. I'm not here just to survive day to day, but I'm here to create. And I'm not having to do what I have to do to be alive and live in this world anymore. I'm able to be what I'm created to be. And so that's what I'm grateful for. And, I just every opportunity I have like that, I want to take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's great. Like that that like brief you at your best. I don't know what your friend was struggling with, but I sort of know what kind of person you are based on that. Like if I hadn't never met you before, obviously spiritual, but somebody that is a confidant when the chips fall, like who do you, you're somebody that others can reach out to at their lowest, which says a lot about you, that you're reliable, you're trustworthy, you're loving, and you're creative. Like you didn't have to say you create. What you did was a gift. It was generous. It was creative. So yeah, like in that brief little thing, it was I think much more insightful, like Julie was saying, than us like reading off all the letters behind your name or where you worked. So thank you for sharing that with us. But why don't you tell us before you got to creating, like what was it like when you were surviving? Like what was it like? What happened? And you can even like expound on what it's like now.
When people talk about our experience, strength, and hope, I mean, I think that, I had a problem with chemicals. I used for about 5 years, but it was enough. I mean, my family is full of people with alcohol and drug problems. All of them have passed on except my brother. But, the thing is that, like dad died with 30 years sober in AA. Grandpa died with 28 years sober in AA. Everybody before grandpa passed away from alcohol, cirrhosis, alcohol poisoning, all kinds of happiness. But one of the things about it was that, even my mom and my grandmother got into recovery, which you all know me, that family is really, really, really important to me. And that, like my grandmother, went for 15 years after grandpa died to keep going to Al-Anon meetings, to keep carrying the message. And so she went for 43 years to Al-Anon, and then mom went for 15 years. But the point it comes down to is that, I was struggling with dad's addiction. And, we went to Alateen when he started trying to get sober when I was a freshman in high school. But we figured out that to be smart, we wouldn't be alcoholics. We weren't going to drink. All the kids in Alateen figured out we should not be drinking alcohol. So we just smoked weed after the meetings. We got it figured out. We weren't going to be alcoholics. Unfortunately, I've seen every single one of those people at a meeting. So, but that's a good thing and a bad thing. But on the other side is it got so crazy. I got arrested. I mean, I was an honor student and doing crazy stuff every day and every night.
Tell me like one crazy thing, because I can't see you doing anything crazy. That's like when someone totally changes their character. Like, just freak me out. Like, what did you used to do?
Break into houses, steal cars. I was honor student by day and a knucklehead by night. Oh my gosh.
Grand theft auto. Oh my God.
Yeah,
so you broke it.
Well, here's the thing. We had money. I just didn't want to spend my money on the drugs and alcohol. I want to spend yours. I don't want to waste my money on that stuff. I mean, man, my logic, I don't know where the hell it came from. But
that makes perfect sense.
Okay. Right crowd. I'm going to work in with my people. But, one of the things that happened is that I got to the point where I got arrested 3 times and thought I was never going to be able to find a job. I got depressed and suicidal 3 times and tried to kill myself. I was miserable. And then I started figuring out, like, wait a minute, I'm an honor student. Why am I trying to kill myself? And the other thing is, I didn't even realize how many blackouts I was having. I think there were 170 school days my senior year, and I missed 70 of them. Still graduated in the fairly top of the class. But, the thing is that, I flunked. I had honors classes freshman, sophomore, junior year. I had three honors classes freshman year, 2 sophomore, 1 junior. And then I flunked an entire class in 6 weeks my senior year. I didn't get an F on a paper. I trashed the entire class. And I couldn't figure out why I was having all this bad luck. And I remember my counselor, when I finally got into recovery, my counselor said, "Hey, what's the worst thing that ever happened to you from using drugs and alcohol?" I said, "Oh man, getting arrested. It was terrible, humiliating, awful." He said, "Hey, you want to make sure you never get arrested again?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Quit doing the crap you're getting arrested for, because I guarantee it's all connected to drugs and alcohol." I'm like, "Oh yeah. Guess I'm going to arrested." No arrest for 40 years now.
That's good advice, man. So like, what brought you into treatment? What was the instigating event that sort of pushed you into treatment?
Well, I tried to quit 3 times. I couldn't do it. My dad helped me. Actually, he had 4 years sober at the time. I was driving him nuts. I was trying to convince him he didn't have to drink alcohol. He'd just smoke weed and he'd be really cool then. The thing is that, the only way I made it to a week sober was Dad took me to school, brought me home from school, took me to work, and then brought me home from work. If you left me alone with the car, I was gone, so I was out there. And so I made it a week sober. Graduation night, my dad, saw me. I walked across the stage. I had a week sober, and I got in the car with my friend and smoked and drank on the way to the graduation. And I get home, my dad, he was at the graduation, saw me walk across the stage. And he said, congratulations. And he pulled me close. He goes, did you take a drink? And I said, yeah. I said, it's graduation night, Dad. And he's like, son, you promised me that you weren't going to do it again, or you're going to check in. So either you are packing up and moving out, or you're packing up and checking into the hospital tonight. And I'm like, I got 3 parties to go to. I can't do that right now. He's like, you're either packing up one way or the other right now. I'm like, oh, man. So I thought, and I've been trying to quit, so I went. But the thing is that even my dad and my counselor were trying to get me in treatment, but I wouldn't go. So I told them, if you put me in the hospital, I'm running away. I'm walking across that stage. And so they waited till graduation night, and they finally got me. And I checked in at 11 p.m. and on May 31st and June 1st, 1979, I checked into the treatment center, was in there for 28 days. But I was in there for 2 weeks. And about the second week, it hit me. I had a counselor say, Steve, you have tried seeing the best counselors in San Antonio to help you with your drug problem. You've tried quitting on your own. You've tried having 2 jobs. You've tried going to some AA meetings. You've tried going to Palmer Drug Abuse Program. You've tried buying from reputable drug dealers. Nothing clicked, I figured it out, man, reputable drug dealers. And the thing is nothing clicked. And he said, Steve, your dad has 4 years sober. Your grandfather has 20 years sober. Can you stay sober without working a program? And that's why I know some people go, stop. Can you stay sober without working a 12-step program? And so I know this one guy, stop. Can Steve Murphy stay sober without working a program? No, I can't. He goes, okay, then do me a favor. Start doing your recovery work and let's go. And that was it. And from that point forward, anybody who wanted to get high with me, that was the plan, my second week of treatment, that we're going to get together and just drink normally. And everybody that planned that with me, stopped talking to me. And everybody that planned on staying sober started talking to me. Yeah. And then next week, the therapist says, hey, you're about a week away from graduating. It's 28 days next week. Ready to graduate? I said, no, I just figured out last week I had a drug problem, so I need another week. So I stayed for 35 days and I've been blessed to be in recovery since then. So I'll have 43.
How many years?
43 on June 1st.
Oh my God, June, my birthday too.
Yeah.
43. That is amazing. So what are the gifts of recovery?
I think the blessing is that I learned how to live life. This sounds so cliche. I learned how to live life. I learned how to grow up. I learned how to date. I remember, I was kind of flirting a lot, and I look a lot better than I do now. But the thing is that I was flirting a lot, and I wasn't screwing around with the girls and 13 stepping or anything like that. But the thing is that I didn't really understand how to have relationships or do things. I had to ask, I was a smart guy, but I had to ask my sponsor, how do you have a conversation with people without talking about drugs, sex, and rock and roll? And he said, well, talk to them about recovery and what they learned and what life is about, and how what they overcame, and any questions you have about staying sober, ask them about recovery. Well, one time what happened when I had about 2 or 3 years sober is a couple of counselors kind of talked to me. They had 3 or 4 of them in a room, and they said, we need to talk to you about your interactions with females. And like I said, I wasn't doing anything wrong. It was just, like I said, flirting a lot. And they said, we want you to go on dates with 3 women. And no, like dating, real dating, like no kissing, no holding hands, no sex, like real dating. Get to know who they are, not physically, but intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, and socially. Get to know who they are. And so I went, and it was like 3 girls. That's wrong. You're dating, Steve. You can date a million people if you want to. Just don't interact with them in any ways that commit to a relationship. And so I started dating these 3 girls, and one of them was real shy and quiet. One of them was hilarious, and one of them was kind of fun and assertive and stuff like that. So I eventually went down. Then there were 2 of them, and then there was one of them, and we dated for about 6 months. And then one day when I was about 22 years old, we came out of a movie, and I grabbed her hand, and I was shaking. And I was freaking out. I grabbed her hand, and she didn't pull it back and slap me. And then what happened is that so I proposed to her, and we will be married 40 years this August.
Was she the shy one?
She was the one that was assertive and funny.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, she's still assertive and funny, but yeah, we have a great time. I'm very blessed. She's been in recovery for over 40 years, also.
That's awesome. What would you say is the most surprising thing about your recovery?
Just where it's gone to. I mean, it's like, I was afraid to get into recovery because I thought I was going to have to shave my head and sell flowers at an airport. And the other thing is that, I thought especially when I got to like certain steps, like step 3 and turning my will and my life over, I was going to have to be going to a third world country and carrying a message there. And I didn't please God, don't take me there, please. And, but what ended up happening is, so I am in a hot country, in the hot part of the country, but I do have AC, so I'm blessed here. But the thing is that where it's taken me on the spiritual level, I started getting to the point in my life where, it's like I needed more than just what the big book taught. I needed, like, I started exploring my spiritual. And I think that's a big part. What a lot of people miss is that, it's like, just like, I had a young man come to me and sit down on my couch one day when we were counseling. And he said, so Mr. Murphy, you're saying that I should explore spirituality. I said, of course. And he said, let me ask you some questions. This kid was like a pre-law, pre-med. He could be whatever he wanted. Brilliant kid, 17-year-old. And he said, should I be Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu? What should I do? I said, well, which one seems like the way you want to go? He said, probably Christian. He said, should I be Episcopalian, Catholic, Protestant, Lutheran, Methodist, Baptist? What? I said, which one seems like it's the way you want to go? He said, Baptist. He said, should I be First Baptist, Second Baptist, Southern Baptist, Primitive Baptist? I'm like, dude, I said, you got it. I mean, which one sounds like the way you want to go? He said, probably Southern Baptist. I said, okay, just check it out and try different churches and see what you like and go that direction. See how it enhances your recovery. And he said, okay. And the thing is, I said, well, let me give you, he said, why do I have to do that? I said, well, let me give you an example. I said, what do you want to be? You want to do pre-law, pre-med, which way, pre-engineering? What do you want to do? He goes, I think I want to be a medicine. I said, you want to be an optometrist, ophthalmologist, orthodontist, cardiologist, pulmonary specialist? What? He goes, probably cardiology. I said, you want to specialize in
interventional cardiology or preventive cardiology.
Yeah. And I said, so you want to specialize with infants or adults or teens or what? He goes, I don't know yet. I said, and that's your job to explore. That's what you're here to do, is you're here to figure out where you belong, what you love to do, and go do what you love to do. And that's why I keep coming back to this stuff, to recovery.
Yeah. Awesome. And Steve, what's really interesting, and it just kind of came up for me when you were telling your story about that, is the same idea, right? Like you're so good at what you do in terms of helping people to get into recovery. You've helped children, adolescents, families, adults, all kinds. And now, your experience with the program of the 12 steps coupled with what we do at Positive Recovery Centers is just such a beautiful thing. And so for our listeners, I was wondering if you might be able to share with them a little bit, because I think a lot of our listeners have some awareness of the 12 steps, but probably less awareness of what goes on at Positive Recovery. So share a little bit about what your clients at Positive Recovery San Antonio get to experience.
Okay. Yeah, this is the thing. This is why I'm so grateful for what you've done, Dr. Powers, and being a whole part of this thing is that, I, for many years, I wondered, because it's like, I remember when I went to my first AA meeting, it was kind of dark and gloomy. And I thought, man, this is like a dungeon. And I'm going to have to go to this dungeon a couple times a week for the rest of my life. This is,
We're in a fan of Dungeons and Dragons.
Dungeons and Dragons, but that way, but you're kicking people's elbow, but no, you're kicking ass, But on the other side is what happened is that it's like, and I had to learn in recovery, it's like, I hear a lot, we talk about share experience, strength, and hope. And the thing about it is that a lot of people get stuck on the experience for 4.5 minutes of their 5 minutes. And the last 30 seconds are, okay, and I'm sober and I'm happy and I'm having a great life and I'll see you later. I wanted to hear more of that, and I even got to the point in meetings like, hey, people, can we hear some more strength and hope instead of so much experience? We all screwed up. We know we need to be here. So, but that's the thing I love about this is that it's like with Positive Recovery, I'm able to sit there and I don't look for the negative. I don't have to go to meetings. I get to go to meetings. I don't have to stay in recovery. There's a way out of my problems and I get to find it. It is not a negative thing. I am not losing my addiction. I am gaining recovery. I am not I'm not having to hide my problems anymore. I get to be honest. I remember in the beginning of when I was still using, I was thinking about, how am I ever going to sit there and be happy about being in recovery without the chemicals? And what I realized is that I wasn't happy with the chemicals. I was just, like I said, surviving. And eventually got to the point where it's like, I also wondered, where am I going to find people I can talk to? And the thing is that is my higher power ever going to want me back for all the stuff I've done? I mean, I really did some screwed up things, and I did mean stuff to people and stole and lied and cheated, manipulated. And the thing is that, it's like that hasn't happened since I've been in recovery. And that's the cool thing is that I learned now to turn everything around and look at it from the positive because of the positive recovery. Because I'm like, it's not just like not doing the negative. I'm not working on the problem. I'm working on the solution. And the solution is keep moving forward. Don't think about fixing the problem. The problem will go away as I keep working on the solution. That's what I love about this is that I'm living in the positive.
Well, thank you for kind of bringing that to light. I think that, also at Positive Recovery, we focus a lot on an acronym PERMA, right? And so we talk about what those elements are. And Dr. Powers, for our listeners, if you could just give a quick, brief recap of that, that would be appreciated.
So PERMA is an acronym for positivity, engagement, relationship, meaning, and achievement, which is a theory of one of the founders of positive psychology, Dr. Martin Seligman, or Marty, who studied for years, where do you find human happiness? And it's in positivity or positive emotions. And this is where you have the online experience of feeling something positive. So most people, when they hear us talk about happy, or they're asked, are you happy? They judge how am I feeling right now? And is happiness only a fleeting feeling? And that's really just one of the 5 buckets. One of the 5 elements of PERMA is positivity. It could be positive emotions. It could be awe. It could be tranquility. But you don't necessarily need to have all 5 buckets full. I'm somebody as an introvert and kind of a walking nimbus cloud that doesn't have a ton of P. I loved, laughing along with Steve, and it's why I love meetings a lot, is because we're just such crazy, funny people. But I have a lot of the M, which is meaning and purpose, which is where spirituality resides. And I heard a lot of that, not only in Steve's Me at My Best, or his positive introduction, but also in his story, not just of that guy you worked with, that 17-year-old, but in you, and how, spirituality is a big part of you. And before I did the master's in positive psychology, and when I was early in recovery, I used to sort of scoff at the spirituality aspect of recovery, because I'd never heard old timers say, or anybody who's relapsed saying, I relapsed because I wasn't working the spirituality part. And that's just me, also being a negative Nelly. But as it turns out, of the 5 buckets, meaning and purpose, which is where spirituality, religion, or sacred things, rather, for those of you who are agnostic or atheist, the sacred is in meaning and purpose. And most of my classmates, and I know a lot of people in the field, believe that meaning and purpose can trump the rest. So I feel happy overall, even though my face might not show it, right? And I think typical of introverts, there's a lot of pressure to sort of, be zesty all the time and all that. That just wears me out. And a lot of reason probably why I use, but there's a great YouTube talk, The Power of Introverts. But the thing is, breaking down where you find happiness, and Steve's story highlights the fact that, not all 5 buckets have to be full, but as long as you're sort of doing something to put in those buckets, overall, your experience of well-being will increase. And I also just want to circle back briefly to what Steve said, so that there's no confusion, and that positive recovery has the word positive in it, because I think it's sexy and I liked it, and so I trademarked it. But it's not only about being positive. Most of the curriculum that we use is using evidence-based business as usual techniques, because people do come in with a lot of real-world problems and unresolved trauma and shame. And what I think is key, and Steve did touch on this, is that, while it's important to look at that, using the past as a guiding post rather than a hitching post is most productive, because we're always moving forward. We're always prospecting. We're always creating different possibilities in the next millisecond or whatever. And as long as we're doing that, moving forward, we can learn from our past rather than be enslaved by it. So it's sort of a well-balanced approach where positive recovery uses the new science of happiness or positive psychology with existing evidence-based techniques like 12-step facilitation, and the reason why we're 12-step friendly and not 12-step based is because, places that are 12-step based seem to have worse outcomes with people relapse than if they don't go to treatment at all. And I just did not want to be part of anything that wasn't improving outcomes. I had an existential crisis where I was tired of going to work because I realized the data was the data, rather than what I wanted it to be, and finally I was like, okay, we can meld the best of what exists, but adding tools on the tool belts so that they can also look at what's right and what builds, in addition to helping people get over what's wrong.
Well, here's one thing that hit me about, the PERMA. It's 5 things. All my life in recovery, ever since I first got sober, they told me that, there are 5 things you do to stay in recovery: pray, read, meetings, step, sponsor. And I always, and in the big book, it talks about that. Oh, how does it say that? We are spiritual, physical, and mental. Yeah. Well, I break it down to 5 because I believe it should. Recovery, addiction was holistic, man. It invaded every part of my being. So recovery should be the same way. And so when we're focused on recovery, those 5: pray, read, meeting, step, sponsor, those things are physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual, social. I break down the mental into 2 things because my intellectual is one thing and my emotional is another. But that's the same thing PERMA does, because PERMA is the same thing. The positive emotions are emotional. The engagement is intellectual because I'm in my groove. I am in doing what I do, what I think, what I love, and then the meaning, the spiritual is, and the last one is the physical, which is, the achievement. I did something. I accomplished something. I moved forward. And I use that all the time. It's called 5 Alive, but I also talk about the 5 parts of our being and how it connects to the 5 parts of PERMA.
Are you going to whittle down the 12 steps to 5? And I'd be interested which ones are going to make it.
Well, no, that's the whole thing is that each step encompasses everything. Step 1 is
right.
Yeah, every step encompasses all of it. If you stop and think about it. And in step 1, my whole life and being, every thought, action, idea, movement, social, everything was polluted by addiction. In step 2, the power is greater than myself are my sponsor. It's God, it's higher power. But the thing is too, it's also the instruction manual, the intellectual, the group, the social, the physical of working the steps. And so pray, read, meeting, step, sponsor, all 5 of them are covered, and it covers with the PERMA too. And it's the same thing with step 3. What do I turn over? Everything, my will and my life, everything I am and everything I want to do. And then step 4 is I evaluate it. And every step covers all 5.
Steve, thanks so much for sharing kind of how you bridge some of the 12-step program with positive recovery curriculum. I love that. I love the 5 and 5 and how you explain that. We are going to go into a little bit different of a focus now, kind of the fun portion. We call it our rapid fire questions. I love listening to the answers, and I really want to know the why about how you choose these. So Dr. Powers, take it away.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Julie. And Steve, thanks for being vulnerable. What is your favorite word?
Word?
Yes.
Hope.
And why?
Because, man, without hope, I don't know where I would be. I mean, and it's all. The other thing is that, man, future is so awesome. There are so many opportunities. And when I think about that, it is like the world is mine. I can do anything.
Yeah, I love that Shawshank Redemption quote. Hope is one of the best things, if not the best thing there is. Andy Dufresne said that after getting out of solitary. Okay, what's your least favorite word?
Oh gosh, I think the thing is like trauma, the pain. I mean, just like some of the people that come across, I am so grateful to have the opportunity that they take the chance to be vulnerable. And the thing, and it's like it just kills me to hear some of the things that people have been through. But I know, again, like on the other side, is that if they give recovery and life and positive recovery a chance, man, it's like, and the world, I mean, there's a way out. There's always a way out. If you're on this earth and you're still living and breathing, there's a way to get better.
Yo, amen. My least favorite word is yowza, in case you guys didn't know.
No, I don't think so. I think you love that.
Shirley, Laverne and Shirley. Like that reminds me of that somehow. What's your favorite sound?
Oh man. No, that wasn't that one. No, I don't know. Music, man, music. I mean, it just changes everything. I mean, I remember when I was getting high, people told us that we could only listen to certain, like it wasn't cool to listen. I listened to everything. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. Thank goodness I'm out of that group. But the thing is like, just the music is just beautiful. I mean, changes everything.
Nothing moves the soul like music. Mm-hmm. Socrates said that. And what's your least favorite sound?
That thing. No.
What? My horn?
I don't know. I don't know if you had stomach problems.
Oh, no.
Okay. There. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. I can't.
You don't have to have a least favorite.
My least is like, we need to talk. That's my least favorite noise. We need to talk.
Got it. If in an alternate universe, like, you could have done any vocation in a world, like, is there anything that you would have loved to have a stab at?
I love photography, man. I love photography, and I love cooking. I mean, like I've told, ever since I've gotten into recovery, I've told people, it's like, I want to be 6 more people, so I could do all the stuff I want to do. But I mean, photography, I do take pictures as many times as I can. I love cooking, but man, just to be out in nature, and some of the pictures we see on the screens, like for windows and stuff like that, it's like, wow. I mean, I want to go there. I want to see that. That is like, doesn't even look real. That kind of thing. So, but being a photographer, traveling the world, taking pictures of amazing things. Yeah.
And what vocation, if forced to do, would you just loathe?
Assembly work. Right. I mean, I cannot stand sitting still, man. It's like, I do not want to I don't want to do the same thing over and over. I mean, I want to move and do stuff all the time.
Yeah. Your job is to tighten this lug nut
40,000 times a year. Yay. I mean, we need that, and God bless people that can do that.
No, I know.
Yeah. But it's like, no, I gotta get up and move.
And when you die, what do you want to hear come out of God's mouth?
Thank you for carrying the message and doing what my son asked you to do.
That's beautiful. Thanks, Steve. We're going to move into another section of our podcast today. And the next section that we're moving into is the Positive Recovery Daily Guide. And from that daily guide, we ask our podcast guest to participate in a positive intervention. And today we asked Steve to participate. And I'm going to read a quote first, a little bit about the positive intervention, and then ask Steve his experience with the positive intervention. So the quote is by Lily Tomlin. And I wish I could say it in her voice, but instead I'll use mine. The trouble with the rat race is even if you win, you're still a rat. So we are human beings, not human doings, but most act as if they've never heard of the latter. And that's why a lot of our recovery assignments here at Positive Recovery include variants of today's theme, stop racing. In working more, vacationing less, pausing less, and trying to accumulate stuff, people lose touch with the magic of silence and stillness. Strategic pauses and the use of blank space make music and art more powerful, which really speaks to something that Steve and Dr. Powers were just talking about. Empty space is needed in order to accentuate what is present. Learn from this method. Rest in quiet, refuel your tank, and help you savor the space between the pauses. Today's positive intervention is just to practice slowing down. Throughout the day, pause before making hasty decisions to fill your empty and silent space with just doing, allowing yourself to sit in stillness long enough for the monkey mind to stop chattering. At first, even a few extra seconds might seem like forever, but don't worry. As challenging as stillness is at first, the rewards of practicing are proportionally great. For myself, Steve, I just want to quickly share that sometimes I overbook my schedule and keep myself so busy so that I don't have to be still and have the pauses. I know that sometimes people will say to me, like, I don't know how you get it all done. And sometimes that's purposeful because I just want to keep going. And I don't want to experience that kind of strategic pause or that blank space because I'm on autopilot. However, I can say that when I do practice slowing down, I appreciate so much more, and I'm able to love deeper and be kinder and show up in ways that are just much more giving. And so that's just kind of a little bit about how important this intervention was to me. And I just wanted to share that. How was it for you?
Well, I think one of the things that I had a hard time sitting still. I mean, it may have been a little bit ADD. I'm not sure. But the thing is that I almost thought that I wanted to meditate, but I had a hard time doing that and sitting still and being quiet. I think one of the things I've learned is that when I am trying to calm down and my brain keeps racing, I have a notebook right next to me. And if that thought keeps persisting, I am going to write it down. I'm going to stop meditating for a second, write it down so it leaves me alone. And the other thing is too, sometimes what I've realized too, sometimes, my mind, my higher power, whatever it is telling me, I need you to just be quiet long enough just so I can help you get stuff that you need to write down in order. Because that's what I do, is that sometimes I have such racing thoughts and so many ideas and things to do that I don't even slow down. I can't keep up with them. And so sometimes meditating is just the most amazing thing. And taking the time out to do that. And especially, it's like I've tried meditating outside. The mosquitoes irritate me. Everything kind of irritates me sometimes. I found this one place in San Antonio that's amazing. It's like a cedar room with about 20 to 30 seats in it. And it is like I can sit still for an hour. I can breathe. It's perfect temperature, perfect smells, just everything. It is just the best place to be. And I find that now I can bring myself there and do that. And I just need to slow down sometimes because God wants me to, focus, and I need to have that peaceful time. And so I don't need to be racing around and getting 1,000 things done. So, but that's why I do love that. So thank you. That was great. Glad to have had those opportunities to do that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Well, it sure has been a pleasure having Steve with us today. And what I will say for our listeners is that we hope that you take the time to slow down and just enjoy the pause and wait to listen.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. That was beautiful, Jules. And remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is all we got. Until next time, everybody. See you later.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Positive Recovery MD. Don't forget to visit positiverecoverymd.com to sign up to get your daily positive intervention sent straight to your inbox. Be sure to subscribe to Positive Recovery MD on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts to receive an automatic download when a new episode drops. And as always, if you or someone you know needs help, visit positiverecovery.com or call 877-4-SOBRIETY, which is 877-476-2743. We are here to help.